If you work for or with a nonprofit organization that deals with ocean science and communication, this is the episode for you. Today, I'm going to be talking about a strategy that I think more nonprofit organizations in the ocean science and conservation world should be adapting to and utilizing so that to gain more attention from viewers and from the people to understand what they are doing for the ocean and how people can support them. We're going to talk about that on this episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. Let's start the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin. This is the podcast where you find out what's happening with the ocean, how you can speak up for the ocean, and what you can do to live for a better ocean by taking action. And we're going to be talking about speaking up for the ocean today. We're going to be focusing on communications. And as you know, I've been running this podcast for 9 years, and I've done a lot of work within podcasting, within communication in general, not just from an ocean and science conservation point of view, but it's also from a communication point of view, a digital communication point of view, and how to get people to understand and get to know you and get to kind of feel like be loyal to you, be fans, become super fans of you. And I've been able to do that in a number of different ways, with people. I'm not saying I have tons of super fans and I'm huge on the internet, but I do have from you, the audience, a very loyal audience core, and that can connect with me on a fairly regular basis, which I love. And I get the feedback from them. I get to hear what they want, and I get to understand, how I'm doing, because I get feedback from people, and people are like, hey, I really love the way you spoke about this. I really love your podcast and how you approach it. And I do that for a specific reason. I have a specific way of approaching communication from my perspective, and that is I am myself. I am not a PhD scientist. I am not a scientist that is a naturalist. I am somebody who is trying to learn as much as possible about the ocean. I'm a marine biologist. I have a master's degree, and I'm trying to learn about marine biology. I'm trying to learn about ocean science and conservation as much as possible. And I do that by listening to other people. So I have people on where I do interviews of their wonderful work. I have people on who are, discovering new species, or who look for new species, or approach conservation in a different type of way than what we consider quote unquote traditional. And it's always great to learn. And when I learn, you learn, because I record the conversations. I also speak in a very different way. I don't use a lot of science talk when I am, podcasting or when I am communicating. I speak the way I speak. A lot of people are like, Andrew, you have a knack for speaking to the people, to people who are out of the science world. You have that knack. And I'm like, look, this is just me. This is just how I don't do it on purpose. This is just how I talk. This is just the way I like to communicate. And I like to do that as, being authentic. This is who I am, and this is what I like to do. And I find that when nonprofit organizations that are in ocean science and conservation, or even people, scientists who are in ocean science and conservation, when they communicate, they want to bring this level of professionalism. And I get it, right? It's professionalism. You want to have, you want to be professional. You want to make sure people see you and take you seriously. And that's always great to see. However, what that does is that reduces the amount of content that you can create, and everything has to be perfect. Everything has to have a certain message. Everything has to, be edited properly. Everything has to be sometimes very produced. Whereas if you start to put out information in short form content, in long form content, just thinking, how do I get the attention of people, of our constituents, or bring in new followers or new people to our organization? How do I do that in today's world? And by creating these longer form, highly edited productions and content, it becomes super difficult to do to gain people's attention. Now, this is not, what I'm about to propose is not a communication strategy for every organization, but I feel as though this is a communication organization that works today, and that has worked for a lot of social media influencers, has worked for a lot of businesses and companies. And if you look at all the people who are putting out content, whether it be for business, entrepreneurism, as branding tools, as influencers. The people who succeed the most are the people who put out the most content and the people who are authentic to themselves. And so I'm going to talk about what I feel would be a good strategy for organizations that are out there who are doing ocean science and conservation, as I've dealt with people in ocean science and conservation and organizations for the last 9 going on 10 years, right? The last decade has been all about digital communication. But mind you, I go back to 2011, so a little over 10 years in looking at blogging, in looking at doing YouTube videos and so forth. Now podcasting, and even I'm starting to take up some TikTok videos as well, and just kind of getting in front of people, getting the attention of people, and being who I am and being my authentic self. And I've struggled through that process as well as putting out a lot of content and putting out content, but it is something that I feel that organizations can really take advantage of. And so here it is. The idea is put out content. Put out as much content as you can. It does not have to be highly produced. I know that goes against what a lot of corporate organizations are all about, but it is something that you see from people in organizations and companies all the time, where you get to see, not only, the products that they put out and the papers and the results and things that they put out, but also the behind the scenes, the people that make up the company, what they're all about, what it's like to work at companies, to work at organizations. And I feel as though nonprofit organizations in the ocean science and conservation industry or world or field, whatever you'd like to call it, can really benefit from showing that off, can really benefit from what it is like to work for this nonprofit organization, and really highlight the people, because it's the people that really bring out things. And you can have a lot of great stuff and a lot of great content where you get to listen to the different staff talk about the work that they do and the passion that they have behind it, and that people can know. Because right now, without this strategy, a lot of the times the people who hear from large nonprofit organizations or any nonprofit organizations, and the way I hear it a lot of times is through emails. I get emails in my inbox. I probably get about 30 to 50 in my inbox from nonprofit organizations throughout the week, about 10 a day. And they're asking for money. They're saying, hey, look at look at what we're trying to do. We need money. Hey, look at this. What do we need? We need money. And it's worked in the past. It's worked very well. And I'm sure it continues to work for a lot of people. However, I have no clue of what the project is like. I have no clue who's working on the project, what staff members are working on the project, what's the turnover like on that, how close are the budgets to this, what have been the results in the past, what are going to be the results, what are you shooting for, what is it like to work in the field with this organization. I have no clue of what it's like to be in that organization. It's really hidden behind the mask and behind the mask of a website. You go on the website, and a lot of times people have beautiful websites and so forth, but I want to go on their social media. I want to find out what it is. And a lot of the times nonprofit organizations' social media is of beautiful images of whales and sharks and dolphins and sea turtles. And then every once in a while, they'll be like, this is what climate change is doing. And this is, here's the information that we need to look at. And they'll display wildfires and what kind of spread the wildfire, and give you great information. But a lot of the times, again, it's just it's based on the results. I know nothing about the organization and who makes up the organization and what I can get from that organization. When I follow an organization, I know the people that work there. I know what they're doing, what their struggles, their challenges, and their successes have been. Then I really start to, really figure things out. I start to get that loyalty to that organization. I want to know what people are up to these days. I want to know what we can see. And I think that is, something that we can really learn from. And I think we can get behind. And so I've noticed this strategy being put in for a lot of different companies. And I'll talk about the companies first, where I can say, okay, these are the companies, this is where I get the loyalty from. The first company is kind of controversial. It's called Barstool Sports. I've talked about it on this podcast before. The reason why it's so controversial is because some of the content that comes out has not done well in the past. A lot of people don't like what they talk about. They are a sports company, a sports media company. And the way I can describe it, if you're involved in sports and you are somebody who's watched sports your entire life, whether it be baseball, whether it be football, whether it be hockey, whether it be soccer, any sport like that, if you've watched that over your life, but you've maybe played it in high school or played it when you were younger and you're in your late 20s and early 30s, but you still watch it, you play all the fantasy sports and everything like that, and you love to talk and argue and debate with your friends of who's better and why and all this kind of stuff, that's what Barstool is. They are people who have maybe been athletic in the past, some at high level, some not at high level, but really have a real interest in sports. They do some betting in the here and there. However, they are a media company, and they are just like sort of your average people who like to talk about sports, and they like to talk about entertainment. It's become not only just a sporting media company, but also like a lifestyle media company. And they have a big fan base that are called the Stoolies, and so they came out with, at first it was all about betting, and then they came out and they started to be, they had a blog when blogs were very, very popular. They continue to have this blog, and they put out information. They, a lot of it's like, it's very men-based, right? So a lot of it they used to have, pictures of models and upcoming models that were around the Boston area where, Dave Portnoy, where he started the CEO and the owner and the founder. And then they grew into podcasting, and as podcasting was just kind of hitting its cusp, in the early 2010s, and the podcast is where they really started to gain an audience, and so they came out with a number of different podcasts, and now they have a network, Barstool Sports Network, and then they had some pretty popular shows that kind of came out. Number one in entertainment, number one in sports in the categories in Apple Podcasts, and they sort of started to gain and gain and gain. Then they started to buy podcasts from different people who were kind of up and coming. They would look at them, they would do their research, they would meet with the hosts and the producers, and then they would buy the episodes, or they would buy the podcast and have them on the network, and they would kind of promote them through that. They would get advertising deals and all that kind of stuff. But they just continued to grow from there. They went on now they're on YouTube and stuff. They made a huge deal with a betting company. They got bought out for like $450 million. They recently just bought the company back for less than $1. So it's always interesting to see how these guys are progressing, but they continue to, I should say the way they actually get users, the way they actually gain audience members, and what they've really done is they've really made their focus on social media what it's like to work at Barstool. They have talent, they have creators that are there that they've hired specific for creating. They have like sort of the back office, which is the sales and everything. And you really got to know those creators. Sometimes they say weird things. They get into arguments. They play games with each other. There are Nerf fights, Nerf gun fights within the office and all that kind of stuff. And sometimes they argue. A lot of times they argue with each other, and they talk about sort of the gossip and what people are angry at each other about and all that kind of stuff. And it goes on their podcast. They had a Sirius satellite station for them, and it's just a number of different things. Some things have worked out, some things haven't worked out. But the meat of their content has always been about their own people and how they react to certain things that happen within sports and just within the media in general, in the world in general. And they've become this massive media company that have rivaled like ESPN Sports, that have rivaled other sort of Bleacher Report, and sort of some of them like you would say they would sink them. And each time they continue to gain audience members, and they continue to sort of develop this loyal audience. And because they have this loyal audience, they get it because they show off their people. All their content has to do with people. You see video, they're doing video podcasts now, and you really see what they're all about. They have new sets, and they build sets, and then they have new people. Then they talk about how some podcasts didn't do very well, so they had to stop them and all that kind of stuff. Really interesting company. And because they're controversial, a lot of people dismiss them, but they have changed the way we see podcasting. One of their podcasts did actually sell. Now they couldn't compete with Spotify, but sold for $60 million to Spotify. Insane, right? And it's one of the biggest podcasts in podcasting in general. And that's not even a sports podcast. It's sort of a lifestyle podcast. And now it's like a celebrity interview podcast. And it's really interesting to see. All of this is to say the point is companies like Barstool, who show off their people, who show off their staff, who show off the behind the scenes and the passion that the people have and what makes the company culture so good and what makes it fun for people to work at Barstool, has really helped in building their audience and building all of their, social media presences, building up different podcasts, all that kind of stuff has really helped them build their brand of what they are. Nonprofit organizations can do the same. Imagine the one thing that I love, the one reason why I started this podcast was I was able to talk to people that I met at conferences, that I met through social media, that I met through projects and through other people. I loved them. That was what made it fun. Hearing people in the marine science and conservation field talk about their projects and what they do and what they hope to do was fun for me. Sitting by, having a drink with people or having dinner with people or even just sitting between sessions and talking to people and saying, hey, you know what? It's really cool to hear about your project. I want other people to hear this. These are the projects that people need to hear. These are the people that people need to hear from, because you hear the passion in their voice. You hear why they love to work for where they work. And when you have that dynamic, right, and you put that within an organization setting, you get to really feel the love for that organization. You get to really feel why that organization is an organization that you want to follow, that you want to support, you want to see succeed. Imagine this. You propose or you start putting out content that are like, I'm going to follow this scientist for a day, or I'm going to follow this employee for a day and see what it's like, or I'm going to do like an office style vlog for the week about what's happening at the office, or I'm going to follow someone who goes out into the field for the day. And I'm going to see what happens. Or I'm going to have them record on their phone updates of what they're doing in the field. One of the cool things, Jalen Myers, a creator who is a PhD researcher at JCU at James Cook University in Australia, she is a stingray. She's doing her stuff on stingrays. And I did an episode with her on how to protect the ocean, and she's going to be on Beyond Jaws podcast soon. But it was really cool to see what she does and to continue to see. I look forward to seeing her videos where she talks about when she's in the field, she talks about what the stingrays she caught or tagged or is following or is observing and what she's doing in the field and all that kind of stuff. She's made it part of her work to do social media and science communication, and is gaining followers every day because of it, because of the stuff that she's showing, the passion that she's showing, the antics that happen in the field, all that kind of stuff, right? That's what's wonderful about that. Dr. Asha DeVos, when she goes out in the field, I don't know if she still does it because I haven't seen it in a while, but she used to do sort of put her phone and go live on a boat looking for whales, right? And looking for whale poop. That's what she did for a while. And so you would be able to follow her in the field and see what it was like for her to be out on the ocean and to look at what you'd have some of her staff, take the phone, turn it on her. So when she was taking pictures, she was doing work, you would actually be able to see that. People started to follow her more and more online to discover what she's been able to do, what she's been able to find. And look, some of us who have been in the field, it's always an adventure. You never know what you're going to see. Sometimes it's part of your topic for whatever research you're doing, and sometimes it's just fun. It's just fun things. You see a pod of dolphins that just kind of bow ride for a little bit, and you film it, and you say, "This is my work. I'm lucky when I have this type of work." Right? Or you're struggling, or you have a bad day in the field and you struggle back and you're like, man, this is tough. This was a tough day, and this is why, bad luck was on our side, weather wasn't on our side, and this is what we had to do. I think having creators like that and training your staff to be able to put out content is really great because they become the face, they become the voice of your company. That becomes important because when you become the face or you have multiple faces and voices of your company, they take more pride in that organization. They take more pride in the work that they do because they want to communicate to other people, and the audience that they're help growing for that organization can, provide feedback or provide comments or follow because they become super fans of that organization. And now they're not just getting an email, which most people don't even use email in this Generation Z, but now most people will get updates on their social media and say, hey, we're doing this project and you've been following this project. Well, this project is coming up for renewal and we need your support. Can you sign a letter or can you support us financially if you want to become a super fan so that we can continue this adventure? We can continue this project because it's really important. Showing off your staff, having vlogs that are done weekly, putting out information to get the attention of your audience, to build that audience is really important. To have creators that can generate views on a video or bring in more followers to that organization is extremely important to your organization. Don't hide the people who do all the great work for you behind a website, right? Don't just show your leadership on a picture on a website. Show them in a video. Show them on a podcast that people can get regular updates on to find out how your organization is going, day to day, week to week, month to month, and be able to put out content on a fairly regular basis so that when people get updates, they know exactly what's going on. They become more and more super fans. Social media is a fickle thing. A lot of these news feeds, whether it be on social media sites like Instagram or Facebook, or on TikTok, or on Snapchat, or on YouTube, whether it's shorts or videos, or anything, any type of social media that comes out now, threads, all that, your news feed gets refreshed very quickly. And if you put out one really highly produced, great thing that happens, and it's not on YouTube or something else, and you put it on there, it's going to get hidden pretty quickly. To update more and more and show more of your people, of the passion that they have, of the work that they do, of their personalities, will get you more followers, will get more engagement, and will get more fans of your organization to lead towards more support. And I think that is the way communications need to be played in this day and age for marine science and ocean science and conservation. That's the name of the game for social media. That's the name of the game for getting support. It's great. One of the organizations just finalized, if you want to follow somebody, is Beneath the Waves. Beneath the Waves has really amped up their, not only just their quality of posts and video and so forth, but also the amount of times they post. When they're doing field work, they're taking chunks of like little pieces of content, whether it be short form or long form, and they're publishing it as much as possible so that you get a sense of what their trips are like. You get a sense of what their science and their results are like when they go to a conference, what they're hoping to get. Austin Gallagher and his colleagues are extremely good and very effective in communicating that to their followers, and they have a loyal fan base, and they continue to grow that loyal fan base. So if you are working for or with a nonprofit organization and you're trying to do this type of communication, or you're trying to increase your communication or increase your support from your communication, this is the way to go in this day and age, from my opinion. If you want to talk to me more about that, you can connect with me at How to Protect the Ocean on Instagram. That's at How to Protect the Ocean on Instagram. I'd be more than happy to chat with you and see ways that we can work together. I'd be happy to do that. Just go to Instagram, DM me at How to Protect the Ocean, all one word. I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the How to Protect the Ocean podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Lewin, who loves to talk about communication. Would love to work with you on your communication strategy. But other than that, I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's episode. Have a great day. We'll talk to you next time, and happy conservation.